Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at this album here. It is Electronic by Electronic. So yes, I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So Electronic was a bit of like an 80s supergroup, so like an indie supergroup consisting of Bernard Sumner of New Order and Johnny Marr, formerly of the Smiths. Now, their collaboration sort of came about like as Bernard wanted to do a solo album like outside of New Order. Like his attempts to take New Order like in a more sort of dancey and more sort of synth like program direction like was met like with resistance like from like other band members. So like he decided to start working like on solo material. However, he didn't like the process of like working completely alone, so he called in Johnny Marr like to help him like with like these sessions. Like Marr like had recently left the Smiths, and like his work around this time sort of like consisted like of like sort of like being like a session guitarist and like part-time member like of multiple bands, including the Pretenders, and like part of like Brian Ferry's backing group. Also drafted in to help on the album was the Pet Shop Boys' Neil Tennant, who contributed vocals to their first single, Getting Away With It, which was released in 1989 and was quite a sizable hit for them. Like their like original plan like for like the collaboration was to be a bit more like underground, release of like white label like sort of like dance remixes like and stuff like on Factory Records, like rather like anonymously. However, with the commercial success like of this single, they slightly changed tack, like going for like a more like commercial like direction. So the recording sessions for this album actually started after Getting Away With It was released, like in early 1990. Like they commenced at Marr's own studios, like called Clear Studios, with the future Oasis engineer Owen Morris on like engineering duties. And this sort of like tight-knit like environment allowed them the freedom to experiment and like record like at like their own pace like with like just like the three of them like in the studio. For the rest of 1990, they toured America supporting Depeche Mode, and like generally saw like made like a name for themselves, like trying to like generate like a bit of hype like for this album. I would say this is probably like the only case like of like a band playing like sort of stadium gigs, like albeit like as a support act before they've even released a debut album. Like so yeah, like that was like definitely quite something. Like but this album like would eventually come along on the 27th of May in 1991. Now upon release in 1991, the album was a commercial and critical success. It's estimated to have sold over 1 million copies worldwide. It reached number 2 in the UK, but only 109 like in like America. But to be fair, like to even chart there like is like quite like an achievement. Critically, people were very enthusiastic about the album, with Melody Makers Paul Lester saying it's one of the greatest albums ever made, while The Enemy noted that it doesn't break new ground, it simply achieves perfection. So quite high praise indeed, like from the music press. And like it was ranked like at number 13 and 15 respectively, like on the magazine's albums of the year list. So yeah, generally like a well-regarded, well-loved album here. However, following its release, sort of like extensive touring really wasn't to be like for like Electronic. Like Bernard like rejoined New Order, and like after like a couple like of like festival appearances, they actually like ended up cancelling like a US tour like in like October like 1991. Like I said, like Bernard like went off like to do like went off to rejoin New Order, and they would release a further 2 albums later on in the 90s. So I will try to show you my vinyl copy of it here. This is the reissue of it, which came out I think in 2013, it says like on the back of it here. So yeah, brilliant cover there, just the 2 of them on the front of it. There's the back. I really do love the design of this album. The inner sleeve isn't anything much, so it's just a plain sort of like green there, and the label looks like that there. So yeah, that is the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs in detail. So I'll score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. Okay, first track up is called Idiot's Country, which is a like a pretty good opening track, I think. It starts off with some kind of like wah wah like guitar playing from Johnny Marr, and like then like Bernard's vocal comes in, and he kind of like I say like raps like the verse like off it, but then like I'm sure if like the chorus like Neil Tennant it is like sort of like sings it like he sings like it like becomes a lot more like melodic like during like the chorus. And lyrically, I've read it's about sort of like the police clampdowns like on like raves and like such gatherings and that. So it is a half decent opener there to the album. Okay, now the next track up is called Reality, which is one of the earliest like electronic songs. So this one was from their first collaboration back in 1988. So like yeah, like before Getting Away With It came out. And I do really like the song. I really like the chorus. Like he sings like I don't need you anymore. I'm not the man you're looking for. That bit's really catchy, very memorable. But musically, it's not too far removed like from like New Order, like the Technique album. It's got that very similar kind of sound to it. So like if like you're a fan of that album, this song like this whole album really isn't too far removed like from that. But yeah, like Reality like is like a really good song there, and I would give it a 9 out of 10. Now the next track up could potentially be my favourite on the album. There is some tough competition, but I would say Tighten Up for me probably is the ultimate electronic song because it's probably for me most representative of what they wanted to achieve and what they could achieve. It's basically like a guitar driven rocker like with dancey elements on it as well. It's kind of like dance rock like sort of thing. Like again, it's got like these sort of powerful like synths like to kick off the song, and then Marr's very loud, very sort of defiant like guitar comes in. Now the next track up could potentially be my favourite on the album. There is some tough competition, but I would say Tighten Up for me probably is the ultimate electronic song because it's probably for me most representative of what they wanted to achieve and what they could achieve. It's basically like a guitar driven rocker like with dancey elements on it as well. It's kind of like dance rock like sort of thing. Like again, it's got like these sort of powerful like synths like to kick off the song, and then Marr's very loud, very sort of defiant like guitar comes in. It's probably the most like Smithsy song like on here, like I would say. Also read that the drums on this track are handled by A Certain Ratio's Donald Johnson as well. So yeah, great playing like all round with it. And lyrically, it's about sort of like the strains like at the end of a relationship, but like at the same time it sounds so upbeat and so like anthemic. Now, this is a song for me which I think would have been a no-brainer choice like for the single, and it did come out like in like America like as like a promo single and like actually reached number 6 like on the modern rock charts there, but I think it should have been issued as a proper single, and I think it would have done very, very, very well here in the UK. But yeah, like wasn't to be. It is just an album track, and it is a brilliant one at that. So yeah, that would get a 10 out of 10 from me. And then we take things down a notch with the next track, which is called The Patience of a Saint, which this one, the lead vocals are handled by Neil Tennant of the Pet Shop Boys, who like co-wrote this song like with like the duo, and he got involved like with like the bands like after hearing like off like the collaboration, I believe through the cover designer like for Factory Records, and I sort of like was really interested like in like being like a part of it. This is a kind of like a low-key sort of like synth song. Tennant sings it very softly. It's about sort of like selfishness like in like a relationship. For me, it's just a little bit flat like as a song, plus I'm not a massive fan like of his voice like or like the Pet Shop Boys like in general, so for me like it's not a song which sort of stands out like as a highlight like it might do like with some other people like for this album, but it's still not bad, so I would give it a 7 out of 10 for that one. I've been getting away with it all my life. Okay, and then side 1 closes with Getting Away With It. Well, this version does, so I am including it in this review, and why wouldn't you? I mean, it's a classic song, this. Like yeah, it's just a brilliant track, I think. Lyrically, I've read it's a parody like of Morrissey's writing style, sort of like quite bleak, sort of like self-deprecating sort of like outlook like on like the song. Production on it is really lush. It features a full orchestra like on it, which is highlighted on the coda of this album version. And you've got some great guitar playing like from Johnny Marr like on it, like a great little solo on it. And yeah, it was a great single. It reached number 12 here in the UK, and like sold around I think 350,000 copies. However, like I said, it wasn't included on the original UK version of the album, which is a shame. I think it does the album a lot of favours. Plus, I would also check out Johnny Marr's live versions like of this song, like he extends a middle bit, and oh, it just sounds so good. So yeah, for me, getting away with it, an easy 10 out of 10. Brilliant, brilliant track. Okay, next up is called Gangster, which apparently dates back to the 1988 solo sessions which Sumner like undertook. So it features a lot of synths on it, very like big, like bold, like synth stabs like on it. And like lyrically, like I've read that it was written about a friend of Sumner's who was jailed like for like a minor like offence, like something like which he maybe like could have like just like got away like with like a fine for. And like how Sumner perceives this as being some kind of like injustice and that. But yeah, it is a really good song, and I think it's quite memorable, quite catchy, like when you get into it. So yeah, I would give that one a 9 out of 10. And then we get a little sort of linking piece on the album, although it's about 2 minutes this one, so it definitely counts like as an actual song. It's called Soviet, and it's a darker piece. This a more sort of like an instrumental bit, which sort of like alludes like to like the conflicts and like the situation like in Russia like at the time. It's kind of got that slightly Eastern like sort of like Russian kind of like style like to like sort of the instrumentation like and like the melody like off it. Maybe it is a bit of filler like on the album. It's not really needed like as a song. It doesn't stand out on the album, so that's why like I'm only giving it a 6 out of 10. But I do think it sort of like links up the album, and like it's like a fairly good like introduction to the next song. Which when it comes in, it's like sort of like it's kind of like the doors opened, or sort of like you've like pulled open some curtains, and like it's a nice bright sunny day. So yeah, it's quite a nice contrast, like on the introduction here to Get the Message, with its very big, bright like acoustic guitar like on it. And yeah, it's just a wonderful song. It was released as the lead-off single from the album like in 1991, and it was a big success for them, reached number 8 on the charts. And yeah, I just think it's a wonderful song. There's really nothing wrong with it. Once again, I would check out Johnny Marr's live versions. Like he only recently started playing this one in concert, and I would say I actually do prefer Marr's live version like of this track. I mean, like yeah, this one is also very good, and I am giving it a 10 out of 10. But definitely Johnny Marr's solo version, like I generally think he adds something to the song. So yeah, Get the Message, another 10 out of 10 for me. If you want to go, I just can't see. Okay, then after that, the album, I don't want to say goes downhill, but it's sort of like it doesn't seem quite as distinctive, like, or like, there's not as many standout moments like from here on in, like on the last 3 songs. But we get the next track, as I said, is Try All You Want, which is another synth-heavy sort of house dance style song. Doesn't really seem to have like much of Johnny Marr like on it. Apparently, like he said that he wrote a part for this song, however he like erased it, like he didn't feel that like it fitted like the song too much. Again, the song's kind of about like relationships and that, and I mean it's a perfectly listenable song, just doesn't really stand out for much, and it just really doesn't stand out too much for me on the album. Just because I've grown afraid of you, I wish we... Next up is called Some Distant Memory, which is another half-decent song, I think. It's again about relationships, about like the ending like of a relationship, like longing to return to like the feeling of new love. Like Bernard sings on it, I wish we were at the beginning. It would be so good to be with you. And it's sort of like, again, he delivers it. He's got a good way of sort of like delivering like these sort of like lyrics. Again, you've got a good arrangement on it. I really like, there's some sort of like, it's kind of like sleigh bells or like something going on like on it. Plus some really nice like acoustic guitar from Marr, which on paper you think wouldn't really work like with a track like which has such like an electronic backing to it. But it is a unique texture, and it is done like with like a lot of skill, like a lot of thoughtfulness. So yeah, that one I would give a 8 out of 10 to. It is a song I do quite like. And then the album concludes with the song Feel Every Beat, which is a, for me, maybe a slightly disappointing closer. Like, it's a song which has grown on me a little bit, but it's never been a favourite track of mine. Like Bernard raps the verse on this, which is something he's not particularly good at. Like I say, I'll leave that to sort of like proper rappers, and that sort of gives the song like that, like sort of like the very 90s backing, gives him a slightly dated feel to it. But you do get some like good, decent guitar parts like from Johnny Marr on it. Plus the chorus like is quite half decent. It's about sort of like the unifying power like of music and that. So it is a good sentiment to finish the album on. But like I said, it's never been a huge favourite of mine. And this was the second single from the album, and it did only reach number 39 like on the charts, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, considering that, like I personally don't think too much of the song. Like, it seems that like a lot of like British record buyers like off the time like also thought like the same there. Like so yeah, Feel Every Beat would get 7 out of 10. Okay, so overall this album would score 83%. So I think this is a pretty good album here. I think it's an excellent album. Like I would go like as far as to say I think it's a subtle but effective mix like of both Johnny Marr's guitar playing but also Bernard Sumner's like synth parts. And while some elements of the album do sound dated and like off its time, I think the general strength like of the songs like make this like such a almost a classic album like for me. Yeah, like I think like you have got like a good mix of like sort of like slightly slower like sort of like more like reflective things like Reality and Patience of a Sane and like Some Distant Memory, and then more like upbeat things like more dancey stuff like sort of like Getting Away With It, Gangster, I Get the Message. So yeah, like there's a good mix of sounds and styles like on here, and they would continue to work together throughout the 90s. They released an album I think in 96 and then another one in 99. However, those two albums were not anywhere near as well received as this one. Like they were both I don't want to say flops, but they certainly like there wasn't like the excitement like around those projects like as there was around this album. And like yeah, like they have certainly like left like the door open like for future like collaborations. Like I believe like Johnny Marr said that he's quite interested like in like doing something like again like with Bernard like and like maybe the rest like of New Order. So yeah, like that would be something quite interesting to see. But yeah, a really good album here, and definitely one I would recommend to any fan of like maybe dance music or any sort of like either the Smiths or New Order. Like there's something really for everyone like on this album. So yeah, that's been my review of Electronic. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.